God. All right, so this is just for the recording. So I created a React application that has inside of our app.js. We also have 3 separate pages or 3 separate components called the contact page, dashboard page, and home page, and are currently only rendering the home page inside of our app.js component. So that is what is being displayed here. Our goal is when we visit a different URL, we'll also display the dashboard page and a contact page, as well as the home page. If we visit a specific URL, we'll visit the home page. If we visit a separate URL, we'll visit the dashboard page. And if we visit like a contact/contact, we want to display the contact page component. And in order to do that, we've got this library called the React Router DOM. The first thing we need to do is install it. So I'm going to come down here in the terminal and not hide my terminal. Kill that and run npm install React Router DOM. Any questions so far about what our goal is? All right, so it looks like I installed 3 packages. You can see down here in our packages.json file, we installed the React Router DOM. Now I'm just going to npm start again. Hopefully everything still works. I come over here, do a hard refresh. Server is just starting. And there we go. All right. So now let's read through some documentation. So here is an example of how you would do this. I don't like this example. Yeah, not a fan of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and do my own. So the first thing I'm going to do, but I am going to bring in you can read through here, quick start, primary components, server, rendering, etc. I'm going to bring in browser router as router. It's essentially renaming this this component as router. I've got this switch, which I shouldn't need. I don't think I'll need this link either. I might need routes, but we'll deal with that later. So there's a browser router and there's also a hash router right here. So you can see that under APIs on the left-hand side, it gives us the different things we can use: hash router, browser router, and it gives us some elements on it. Gives us a link. The link tag, like this, is an easy way to create links. You probably will use that at some point. But yeah, redirect, route, router, static router, switch. You may use history and location, but we'll stick with this. So the first thing we'll want to do is create a router like so. So an opening router and a closing router. And I just want to see if everything's still working. Nothing's displaying. I'm not getting any errors. That's fine. And now inside of the router can only have one parent div, like something like that. You can't have multiple divs like that. You can't have. So a router can only have one, whether it's a div or one element. So if I want to create a separate route, so you can kind of look here. So a switch looks through its children's routes, blah, blah, blah. So I can have a route to a specific path. Is this the right? Oh, this is a different version. Here we go. We're looking for version 6. All right, I'm gonna go to documentation, installation, just to make sure everything's good. So I got React route, insert browser router. I can do that. All right, looks like I need routes. This is what I want. So, whoop. So I need anything within this router element. I can create different routes or URL endpoints. So inside of here, I'm going to create routes. So this routes, so you can kind of see here, we've got routes. And then we have a route, looks like a component where you want that URL endpoint to go, / followed by an element attribute. And that element attribute takes in a React component. So based on that, I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to take in a route, take in a path. Where do I want that to go? I want it to go to just / and the element or the component I want to render is the home page. Whoop, the home page component, like that. So if I come over here, I'm going to logo / 3000. Nothing's coming after that / so I'm rendering the home page. Questions on how that works? If I wanted, if I had like H1, this is a router like that. Still work. Oh, wow, it actually still works. Cool. But here, if I added that, will that work? That will break it. All component children of routes must be a route. So anything within the routes should be a route. But I can move this up to there. Whoop. In line, there we go. So yeah. Anyway, so I can do the same thing with route path. I can say dashboard. And then instead of displaying the home page, I want to display the dashboard component. Move that up there. So inside of the element, we're actually invoking dashboard, like so that. So now if I go to /dashboard, this is the dashboard. And now I'm at /dashboard. And lastly, I can do the same thing with the contact page. I can do contact page, like so. And I can say contact page. This is the contact page. Oh. What questions do you have about creating routes like this? This is actually a lot easier than version 5. Because if you wanted to, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just making sure that I'm grasping, very similar to what we had done with Django in creating the routes, except this is taking the components instead of templates.
Sure. Yeah.
Or a component here, this would be taking components instead of views and rendering them per component in one page versus multiple templates.
Correct. So think of this URL path as completely different than what's happening on your backend route.
Okay.
So, but yes, you are correct. Yeah. So instead of rendering a view that renders a template or multiple templates, this just takes in a route and renders a view. Or renders I'm sorry, renders a
A
component.
component. Sorry, I'm relating for understanding.
Yep. No, yeah. The thing that people, and we'll get to this in the next few weeks when we bring in Django again, is that this path is going to be completely separate than your backend path in Django. So remember, your view would render a template. So you visit, posts/post ID 1 or whatever, goes to like post detail that grab the post and then renders a post detail HTML. You're still going to go to post dash ID of 1, but here you can go wherever you want, and it's still going to, because you're going to make an API request to that Django backend URL to post ID or post/ID of 1. So that's the API you're going to use to talk to your Django backend. And on the front end, you can call this whatever you dashboard, and it can still grab the post ID 1. And I can kind of show you that here. So
I said I was just looking at this and being able to relate the way we were rendering it and understanding the differences and to better understand how this is working.
Yep. No, yeah, you are correct. No. So okay, this is completely front end. There is no back end data. We're not talking to a database or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a posts page or post. Yeah, I guess I'll create a post component. And similar to what I did RCS from the last lecture, where I'm going to go to posts, and inside of posts, let's see what I can do. I'm going to have a use state and use effect. And this is going to have, I'm going to use that JSON placeholder again. What are the other 8? I can use post, photos, albums. Do they have cool photos in here? Let's see. Nope. Just want to see. Yeah, I'll just use post again. Yeah, something like that. But let's see what I want to do. When I visit a post/ID, I wanted to render a post component. So I'm going to come up here. Post component. And I'm going to render H1 post component. So when I go to /post, is it posts like that? It's not going to render anything. So if it doesn't visit a URL endpoint that doesn't match here, I want it to default to a specific home page. So in the React router, I'm going to say default. No. Is it exact path? Oh. So exact path React router v6. Well, not v5, v6. state in there. You don't need to use an exact prop. Okay. Whatever. So if I want to go to post ID /1, I go to post component. So if I want, if there's a variable like ID, I want to display a post component. So I can say like use effect. I'll just run it once. Const post set post equals use state null or undefined. I'll just use null for right now. And say I want to grab the ID of this. So post / ID of, 1. That not work. Why didn't it work? So I can look at the documentation. There we go. I don't know. Okay. So if I can do fetch post 1 dot then taking the response res.json dot then data set post to data. Oh, whoops. There we go. So now here I can just console log the post. And you can see initially it's null, and then I get the post here. So here I can just render post and what does that data look like? Post.title. And then a paragraph post.body. So here we go. I'm displaying the post, but I'm hard coding this part. So if I visit post ID of like 6, it's still showing me post ID of 1. So what React Router has is that we can extract the, where'd it go? The value from the URL. Let's see what it looks like. Where'd it go? Querying, search params. Let's see. How to extract URL from React Router DOM v6. So here's one way. That's stupid. Use params. So let's actually take a look. React router DOM v6. All right, let's see how this looks. So use params, reading parameters like that. So I'm going to import use params at the top of here. So import use params from React router DOM. And then it looks like I create under here params. So let's actually just console log params. See what the params look like. So if I refresh, you can see ID of 6. ID of 6, the value ID is coming from the route ID. I can call this anything. And then the param, if I refresh, is called anything with a value of 6. So it's nice. So now I can use conditional rendering, or I'm sorry, string interpolation by grabbing the params dot ID. So, but I got to change this back to ID. So now if I refresh, I get an ID of 6. If I go to ID of 1, grab the ID of 1, the post ID of 1. So that's how you can extract things from the URL. You don't always have to extract things from the URL. You can have state up here that has like that page number and pass props down to here to the post based off of a page number or ID and change that as well. All right. Any questions on React Router DOM? You're going to see this on Thursday.
So when we're building our full stack apps, are we gonna like have everything in our React routers match like our Django URLs, or are they we gonna like pick one? Are we like, what is it?
So for like the URLs between the React and Django.
Yeah.
So these are going to be completely separate. They could be the same, but there is really no relation. There technically isn't a relation between the React router URL and the Django router URL. If you'd like to think about the Django router, think of your backend being this API right here, localhost. What is it? Was it 8,000? Like API slash posts slash ID. So this will be your Django backend API. This will be your Django backend, and you'll be fetching directly to your Django backend and grabbing some data from it.
Okay, I see.
So this will be your Django URLs will go here essentially. And then instead of you're in your Django app, instead of your view method rendering an HTML template, it's going to return JSON. It's going to take that Python object, such as like the query for post 1, which will be a Python object, and you'll turn it into JavaScript object notation and send it to the front end for us to use. Or you'll stringify it or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Any other questions?